Barbara Parkins is one of the most beautiful and legendary actresses of all time. Barbara began her career with guest starring roles on some of the most iconic television shows of the 1960s, appearing in shows like Perry Mason, Wagon Train, and My Three Sons before she landed her breakout role starring as Betty Anderson on the iconic television series Peyton Place, and she later starred as Ann Wells in the cult classic Valley of the Dolls. Peyton Place was originally a best-selling novel by Grace Metalius that was published in 1956 before being made into a film and later a television series that ran from 1964 to 1969. Peyton Place was all about the scandalous sides of small-town life, and at the time that the series came out, many critics described it as shocking, but audiences were captivated. Peyton Place was an intelligent series that was not afraid to break away from the perfect family sitcoms of the era and portrayed sex, violence, adultery, lust, lies, and crime. Similarly, Valley of the Dolls was originally a best-selling novel written by Jacqueline Suzanne and went on to become the 1967 cult classic film. In the article, The Camp Trash That Became a Classic, BBC described Valley of the Dolls as having fame, pill popping, sex, ambition, fashion, all served up with a generous helping of glitz and melodrama. In Valley of the Dolls at 50, Simon Doonan writes about how Valley of the Dolls is more culturally relevant now than it has ever been before. Simon writes, at one point, Jennifer, an untalented actress making it on her looks, is put into a medically induced coma so that she can lose weight. Like many of today's reality stars, she sees her various body parts as a source of income and validation. Jennifer becomes addicted to pills, or dolls as they are called in the book and movie. Meanwhile, Neely, a very talented but troubled actress, is a character who seems ripped from the pages of the Daily Mail, with her hard partying ways, love affairs, and mental health problems all taking over her life. Neely becomes addicted to the dolls as well. And then there's Anne. Anne is an East Coast girl with a simple, wholesome, strategic ambitions. A modeling assignment with Jillian Cosmetics makes her rich and catapults her into national superstardom. Anne becomes the Jillian girl and in the process becomes a full-on brand before becoming a brand was even a thing. Had she been working today, Anne would have become the queen of the millennials, or maybe a judge on Shark Tank. However, not everything went Anne's way, and she gets the guy that she wants, Lion Burke, but Lion's infidelity sends her lunging for the dolls. Simon ends the article with, the characters are fully drawn, and the explosive outbursts of sizzling dialogue leave one feeling as if one has just been spanked with a feather boa. Barbara Parkins and Sharon Tate had become such great friends that in 1968, Barbara traveled to London to be a bridesmaid in Sharon's wedding to Roman Polanski. Barbara would later cite the horrific murders done by the Manson family as one of the reasons that she later moved to England, where she would continue to pursue her film career. Barbara went on to star in films like The Deadly Trap, Puppet on a Chain, Shout at the Devil, and Ziegfeld, the Man and His Women. In the 1980s, Barbara reprised her role as Betty Anderson in a Peyton Place reunion movie called Peyton Place: The Next Generation. Barbara's status as a style icon has influenced many generations of fashionistas, most notably Duchess Kate Middleton, who has been said to be greatly influenced by Barbara's 1960s style. Barbara Parkins is forever cemented as a legendary actress of the golden age of cinema due to her unforgettable roles that will inspire generations to come. Please welcome the talented, legendary, and iconic Barbara Parkins to the hot seat. Ms. Barbara Parkins, it is an absolute honor and privilege to be able to speak with you today. We are joined by Ms. Barbara's fan club president and manager, Andy. So, Andy, thank you for being on as well.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. You're her fan club president and manager. How do you start that?
I actually started it many years ago when she was on Peyton Place. I was very young at the time, and I just started a little fan club, a local fan club, As the years went on, it got bigger and bigger. When Facebook came out in 2004, I went on Facebook and had it. And I spoke to Barbara's daughter, Christina, and she said, I'm going to tell my mother about your fan club, which she did. And ever since then, Barbara and I have been talking, and we've been good friends. And show her appreciation, she invited me to England a few years ago, and she showed me all around London. It was great. She's such a wonderful person.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
When my daughter called me and said there's this guy, she said, I connected with him and back and forth, and he runs a fan club. And I said, what do you mean he runs a fan club? Who is this guy? He's crazy. And I said, I don't even act anymore. What's wrong with him? And then she said, Mom, get in touch with him and see what it's about. And I said, yeah, I'm going to get in touch with him. I'm going to take this thing down, This is not happening. And here we are. And what was it? Last week he told me that there were 15,000 fans, and I thought, really? And I don't even act? That's outrageous.
He's gotten more famous in the last year than ever because of a new book that came out, Valley of the Dolls, called Dolls, Dolls, Dolls. And people said it should be called the Barbara Parkins story because the author, Stephen Rebello, wrote so highly of Barbara in the book.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for starting that fan club because people love it.
Thank you.
Barbara, I'd like to go ahead and jump into the interview with you now. My first question is, you actually moved to Los Angeles at a young age from Vancouver and worked as an usher in a movie theater to pay for drama lessons. Was it a culture shock moving from Vancouver to Los Angeles? And what sparked your interest in acting?
I was 17. My mother was playing piano for dance school, my auntie's dance school, and I danced all my life from the time that I could walk, so my whole life was dancing. And so at 17, she got a call, my mother got a call from my uncle in Los Angeles saying, I can get you playing the piano at a dance school for like triple the amount of money. So my mother said, she sold our little house. We hopped on the Greyhound bus. Does anyone out there know what a Greyhound bus is? It was amazing. That's how we got from Vancouver to LA. And amazingly, the dance school was in Hollywood, and it was called the Falcon Dance School. So my mother played there. They had classes in ballet, adagio, fencing, acrobats, drama, everything, and you could buy a card of 24. So I thought, I'll try some acting classes because my dream was to go to New York and dance with the Martha Graham Company. That was my great desire, and dance was my absolute passion. So when our drama group put on my drama classes, the teacher decided to put on a little play, and two of the biggest, the biggest agency in Hollywood, which was MCA, two of their agents came to one of the performances, and they came up to my mother and said, we think Barbara has a special quality, and we'd like her to come to the office and meet us and read for us. And that's how it all started. And yes, I worked at a movie theater selling candy and ushering people into the theater so that I could pay for my classes.
That's fascinating, Miss Barbara. From 1964 to 1969, you played Betty Anderson on Peyton Place alongside Ryan O'Neal and Mia Farrow. It's been said that Peyton Place was among one of the first major American soap operas, with many critics saying that the novel Peyton Place blew the lid off of the hypocritical conformity of small-town America. What do you think is the legacy of a television show like Peyton Place?
The shows before that showed families, and everything was nice, and families were lovely, and everybody dressed nice, and everyone sat at dinner tables, and everything was nice.
Yeah.
Well, in life, everything is not nice in families, and that's when Peyton Place, who wrote the book? Help me there.
Grace Metalius.
Grace Metalius wrote the book, and she showed how people, the dramas in life, the ups and downs, the arguments, the teenage sex,
right.
it just showed life as life is. Life was not dreamy and pink and pretty. And that, I think, was is the major legacy over the fact that we had wonderful actors, we had amazing directors, and the show was, it was just done during a time, we were the last actors and actresses to be in that period where you were under contract to a studio, and the studio was run by the head of the studio, which was Dick Zanuck at that time, and they loved their people, they loved their movies, they loved their TV shows. They did it out of passion, not like today where everything is just, geared towards making the most money. So I think the love of that show came from the top of the studio down to the people working on it and out into the audience, and it was just a beautiful show. And let me tell you, I don't know whether people think about this, but I think about it a lot, is the theme song for Peyton Place is one of the most hauntingly beautiful pieces of music out there. Whoever's going to watch the show again, listen to the theme song. It is beautiful.
Absolutely. That's something that I definitely have to do.
Yeah.
Andy, did you have any thoughts on the theme song?
Yes, it's a beautiful theme song. As a matter of fact, it does have words to it, even though on the TV show and in the movie, the Return to Peyton Place, it had the words. But Barbara's character in Peyton Place had to be the starring role because for somebody who was only going to be in just the 12 episodes, she lasted to the very end. The only female actress on the show to do that.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading about that. Barbara, Valley of the Dolls is one of the most iconic films ever made, adored by audiences around the world. And I heard that you originally read for the roles of both Jennifer and Neely. Are you glad that you ended up playing Anne, and what does that role mean to you today?
Well, let me just tell you the story. First of all, I never read for the role of Jennifer. I was doing Peyton Place at the time, and I'd heard, the big thing in Hollywood was 20th Century Fox had bought the rights to Valley of the Dolls, which was an amazingly popular and bestseller for 60 weeks or something, by Jackie Suzanne, who was an extraordinary, interesting, wild, wonderful woman who I loved. And I was on, working, doing Peyton Place, and I would sneak onto the set and watch different actresses testing for Valley of the Dolls for one of the three roles, because that was the big thing. Who's going to play the three roles in Valley of the Dolls? Right. So I thought, wait a minute. I've just been up for an Emmy nomination, which I lost to Barbara Stanwyck, thank you very much, and I should have won. But I thought at that time, I have a little bit of power here. And that was innocently thought of. I have a little bit of power here. So I made an appointment with Dick Zanuck's secretary to come up to the office. And I had a meeting, and he says, congratulations on your nomination and you're doing well and the show. And he says, I understand that you're interested in Valley of the Dolls. And I said, well, everybody's being tested. I want to be tested. He said, and he was in the conversation. He said, "Well, what role do you think you could play?" And I said, "Well, I want to play Neely O'Hara because that's the meatiest role." So, yes, thank you. He said, "Well, we'll send a script down to the set." And about a week later, I got the Neely O'Hara test, and I did the test, and actually the crew kind of applauded, which was quite sweet. And I ended up getting the role of Anne, but which was fine, but she wasn't the meaty role. I wanted the meaty role, but Andy actually sent me the test scene of Neely O'Hara, and you know what? I was really good. They should have cast me in that role.
She would have made a great Neely.
I definitely could have seen you in that role too, but I think you were great as Anne either way.
Yeah, she was. She was great as Anne, the main character.
Barbara, you were actually involved in choosing the theme song for Valley of the Dolls, which was beautifully performed by Dionne Warwick. And you've said that that song is exquisite and makes you emotional. Why does that song bring out so much emotion in you?
Well, I wasn't involved in it. When I started reading scripts, I would read it first, and then I would find some music which kind of represented the flow of the story,
Yeah.
which made it more and gave me some inspiration on the role and that kind of thing. And so when I got the Valley of the Dolls script, I'd heard a song called "Look Through Any Window" by Dionne Warwick, and I thought that music is perfect for me going through this script. And I thought, wow, she's amazing. So again, I used my little bit of power, and I called up Dick Zanuck's secretary, and at the time I went up again to the office, and I suggested that I gave it to his secretary. I didn't see him, and I said, Dionne Warwick has sung this song, "Look Through Any Window." I think she'd be amazing to sing the theme song for Valley of the Dolls. And they signed her. But did I get any money out of it? No.
Oh.
Did I get a thank you letter? No. Did I get flowers? No. I was sent back to work on Peyton Place.
Oh my goodness.
It's the most beautiful, beautiful song. Again, another one. People, please go out and just listen to that song. It's so, it just gets in. I'm getting goosebumps again, just talking about it. It's just, it's hauntingly beautiful. But I do want to say something. I didn't know whether you were going to cover it. You can stop me if you want to. This Valley of the Dolls dealt with addiction, pill addiction,
Mm-hmm.
mental illness, cancer, and it was all filmed in Jackie style, which was kind of pink. I say you look through pink tinted glasses and you watch Valley of the Dolls. But if you really, if like a Roman Polanski had taken that film and dealt with all those deep issues, it would have been a really dark, different, interesting film. And that's why I think maybe it has its longevity, because I classify it as pink.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective of it, Barbara, because I do think different directors would have dealt with it differently. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's a great movie the way it is. I'm sure they'll be able to talk more with the drugs and the people themselves a little bit more in depth as with somebody else. But, I mean, it's a classic.
I don't understand why it has longevity, Andy. You tell me.
Well, I can say the reason for it's very popular among the gay culture. The gay people love that movie for some reason. They really the ones who actually made it get onto DVD and Blu-ray, because for years it was hard to get Valley of the Dolls, even on VHS. And then finally, because it has such a big following, I mean, Barbara, you did an interview at the Castro Theater in 1997, I believe, and you saw how much the gay people loved Julia and talked about the movie. I just think because now gayness is more open, more people are seeing the movie, and everybody that I talk to love it. I haven't heard one negative thing about it. I mean, you know how I feel about it. I've seen it, I would say I've seen it 100 times. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. But of course, Barbie's my favorite actress, so that has to do with it.
Why do you think so, Bianca?
I think that the style resonates. I think a lot of people are fascinated by the style of the movie, the fashion in the movie, the dialogue, the camp of it. I think it's just something.
It's that camp of it. There you go. Yeah.
Yes, people love that, and I think that it's timeless.
And it becomes more camp, I think, as the years go on. It becomes more. I mean, some of the lines are kind of quite ridiculous now, and you think, and you have to laugh at it,
Yes.
Actually, my daughter wanted to see it, And so I had like about 6 of her friends come over to the house, and I gave them little cups of M&Ms. And I said, every time they put a doll, a doll in their mouth, everybody pop back an M&M. So they were all laughing, and then they ended up having an M&M fight. So there you go.
Barbara, I've heard you talk about the parallels between what happened to the characters from Valley of the Dolls and what happened to the actresses that portrayed those characters in real life. And I think that is really fascinating. We know that Patty Duke had mental health issues and later actually became an advocate for mental health. And Sharon Tate, whom you were good friends with, was horrifically murdered by the Manson family. And you've said that after the Manson murders, you actually thought that the Manson family was targeting the actresses from the film Valley of the Dolls. And you were terrified, causing for you to move to England. What was it like in Los Angeles during this time? And how did you handle the anxiety and grief of what was happening?
Well, firstly, can I touch upon something that I feel is really important for this film, which never happened, which was one of my first scene in the movie was with Judy Garland. They had cast Judy Garland. I'll get on to the next bit in a minute.
Okay.
Judy Garland. And my scene, I think you have a picture there of her and I together, me in her office when I bring the contract that she tears up.
Mm-hmm.
And we did I was nervous. I called up Jackie Suzanne, and I said, Jackie, I have my first day tomorrow with Judy and Judy Garland, and I am really scared. I don't know what to do. And she said, honey, just go in there and enjoy that day. I thought, okay. So, I went in and I was nervous, but that I could see that she was kind of nervous herself, and she would come up and she would give me these kind of funny little hugs and then more hugs, and then at the end of the day she'd grab my arm and we're going to do this, we're going to make this great, this great film. And I said, well, you're going to make it great because your singing is absolutely going to make it explode off the screen. And then 3 days later, we waited for her, and she had locked herself in her dressing room. And I think her parallel there was, I feel that she could see herself in that role as an over-the-hill actress,
mm-hmm.
and that scared her. This is my point of view.
Yeah.
My thinking on it, and that's why she refused to come onto the set again, and they fired her, and she left with all her costumes.
Wow.
Now she would have made Valley of the Dolls bigger, more camp, more wonderful, and her songs would have just, been with us stronger today.
Yeah.
That's the first story. The other, which is quite bizarre, no one ever thought that this would happen, and quite frightening, the fact that Sharon's role is Jennifer, Patty's role is Neely, and my role is Anne. Our lives paralleled the roles that we played. In Sharon's playing Jennifer, Jennifer, she dies. Well, Sharon horribly was murdered by the Manson family. Patty, who had, these issues, fell apart, and in her character, that's exactly what happened. And in my character, she goes home. And in the way that I've gone home is that I've shut the door on acting and gone home to a place that I love and now continue on with photography. So those three parallels are very bizarre. It was frightening at the time because I did think that the Manson family were after Sharon, myself, and Patty. So I hired a bodyguard. I hired the police. I had police protection for 2 weeks, and I just said, I can't deal with this, and I went to London, which was a safe place for me to be and for me to continue on acting. But what had happened in Hollywood, that Manson tragedy changed changed Hollywood for good. Movie stars had they now have gated communities. They have gated homes. Some have people who wait at the gates for them. Some do have some form of protection very quietly, with them. And there is more awareness of looking around, but now it's hard to avoid paparazzi. Paparazzi are in your face. I was, during Peyton Place and during Valley of the Dolls, was a time when photographers, they were classed as photographers, not paparazzi, they would stand maybe 10 feet away from you and take your photo. Now they're kind of like, if they can get a picture of your crotch, they'll do that. Yeah. They can get a picture of anything, they'll do that. There are no borderlines anymore. And that's the scary aspect. Now it's gone into dog snatching, Look at Lady Gaga, her dog is snatched. It's sadly, there are no safety nets anymore. And that's the scary aspect of it.
Yeah, that's something that I know a lot of people talk about, kind of the dark side of fame and what it's turned into and how it parallels to the golden age of Hollywood when things were much more private.
Mm-hmm. He's Polish-born director Roman Polanski. She's American actress Sharon Tate. And the huge public interest their wedding created shows that the magic of motion pictures is as strong today as ever. After the ceremony at Chelsea Registry Office, the mini-gowned bride and the mod-geared mate made for the Playboy Club and a star-studded reception. Joan Collins and Anthony Newley. Two-fisted Terry Downs, and from sedate Peyton Place, Barbara Parkins.
Barbara, I've seen a gorgeous photo of you actually at Sharon Tate's wedding to Roman Polanski, where you were one of her bridesmaids, which I didn't know. Do you remember anything about that beautiful day? What do you remember most?
Yeah, we were all in London together, and Sharon was happy. And first of all, the most beautiful thing is that it didn't rain.
Oh.
In London, it rains. And we were at the Chelsea Register office down on the King's Road, and you have to kind of come out and everybody throws flowers. And it wasn't raining. That was number one. That was the greatest thing. The second was the fact that to see Sharon happy, she was marrying the man that she loved, and it was a day of celebration.
Wow, that's beautiful. Barbara, a lot of women dream of posing for Playboy magazine. And I know that you did several beautiful shoots for that iconic magazine. Did you feel empowered when you were shooting for Playboy? And did you actually ever meet Hugh Hefner?
My reason for doing it is that in Peyton Place, in TV, you're photographed, pretty much on the headshots, and you're always clothed, or you're always in, if you're doing a bedroom scene, you're always in lovely lingerie. And I thought, I've got this beautiful body. I'm a dancer,
Yeah.
And then I was living with my boyfriend, John Richardson, who was a photographer. And so I went to my press people, and I said, look, I want to do Playboy. They said, what, are you out of your mind? You're crazy. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want 6 pages of photographs done by my boyfriend, John Richardson, and I want an interviewer who I think is really smart. His name is Bruce Williamson. He's in New York. I want him to do my interview, and we will give them what we want. We will not give them what Hef wants. I said, don't say that to Hugh Hefner, but we will give them what we want. So I didn't do spread eagle or my boobs flying out or anything. If anybody I'm sure people are going to run up and try to find it, but they are beautiful photographs. And my interview was, at the time, really interesting. If I read it now, which I read it the other day, I thought, oh, God, did I really ask her that question? Did I really say that? It's really stupid. I'd like to do the interview all over again, because I would respond in a completely different way.
Wow.
But there were beautiful photographs. The interview was good. Hefner came in, said, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. He didn't hang around,
Yeah.
The the photographs were being done, and that was it. But we actually photographed them in London. We flew out to London in the countryside and photographed them in the countryside. I did actually go to Hefner's mansion. I went with a boyfriend, Maurice at the time, and we went to their Halloween party.
Oh.
And that was the best scary Halloween party I have been to in my life.
Wow.
It was fun, scary, outrageous.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. You know, the home was beautiful. It was a big Tudor mansion, and all the kind of beautiful animals and the birds on the in the grounds, and you know, I'm sure there was naughtiness going on, sure, but I guess that was Hefner's mansion. You know,
Right. Barbara, you're actually an incredible photographer as well. I've looked on your website and I've seen that you've photographed so many interesting and vastly different subjects over the years. On your website, you have photographs of nature, different countries, wildlife, tribal photos, and portraits. What is your favorite subject, if you have one, to photograph? And what stories do you hope to tell through your photography?
Well, when I was acting, I'd always pick up my camera and photograph. I went out with Christopher Jones for a while. Do you know of him? He did Wild in the Streets. He was going to be the next James Dean, and we went out together for a while, and I'd do portraits of him, and I'd do pictures. And then when I was in London filming the Lady Randolph Churchill series, I was photographed by one of the royal photographers for his book. And he was saying, you know, he looked at my photographs and he said, I think you're really good. You know, just eventually concentrate on doing some interesting work. And eventually I gave up, I closed the door on acting, and I, you know, started concentrating on my photography. And, you know, I have photographed so many things in the world that move me. Mm-hmm. But right now, what moves me the most are indigenous people and tribal people, because they are slowly slipping into the Western way of life.
Yeah.
Last 2 years ago, I went for my fourth trip to photograph the Samburu tribe, and being in their compound. They used to find tires. I don't know where they'd find tires, but they found them. And they'd cut out their foot size and put a strap on them, and they called them milers because they could walk 1 million miles. And believe me, they walk everywhere.
Wow.
And now they wear little plastic sandals that they go into the village. They might find them hanging on a string, and so they get them. And the young girls they've fallen in love with really bright colored bras, and they're hanging on strings in the village markets. And they don't wear them for support. They just think they're funny, and they just think they're colorful, so they put them on over their tops, you know, over their tribal wear.
Wow.
And there was the beauty of, and then one of our guides, he was in his tribal, I'd say costume. They say, well, it's not costume, it's our tribal wear. And I found him drinking a Fanta.
Oh.
And we were up photographing the sunset, and he was standing off drinking a Fanta. And I stormed up to him, and I pointed my finger at him, and I said, no, no, no. And I took the bottle, and I said, you see this? Because he spoke English. I said, all the people in the Western world who drink Fanta, all their teeth fall out.
Yeah.
And I poured it out. And then I gave him a bottle of my water. And I said, the Western way isn't always the best way. I said, you know, for the tribal people and the indigenous people, which I'm photographing now, the Sami reindeer herders, I'll tell you about that. The beauty of these people is their tradition, their passion for their tradition, which has gone through hundreds, back into 500, 600, even the tribal people. I don't know how far back that goes. And they have a balance of nature, a love and the balance of nature, which we in the Western world have lost mostly. There are people who still live off the land. But that's the beauty, that's their passion, that's their heart. Now, I'm actually now photographing the Swedish Sami reindeer herders.
Oh, wow.
Do you know of them?
No.
They herd reindeer, and that's their meat that they sell. And the reindeer, I flew up in last January before the pandemic started, in -7 to -15 degrees.
Wow.
And they dress you in their kind of warm gear of reindeer coats and things. And I lived with a family, and I spent the winter with them, and they wear their traditional outfits, and they herd reindeers across an area of Sweden called Finnmark, which takes 2 weeks. Then they put the reindeer on these boats, and they cross a river and take them to the island of Soroya in northern Norway for the summer. And I'm joining them in the summer. I've missed the migration, which is you follow the reindeer. They have their natural instinct just to go. They know exactly where to go. I've missed that.
Yeah.
But I am going in the summer to be with them on the island of Soroya, and to the ear marking, which is they cut a little, like a tattoo in their ear of each reindeer, so that if they get mixed up, they know whose reindeer they are. Now, the Swedish government said, we want you to stop. We want you to bring it down to 200 reindeer and stay in one place. That is not who they are. So my passion now is to photograph indigenous people who are losing this beauty of tradition because governments want to build a superhighway. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to photograph the Punch and Judy show on Brighton Beach. It's a little puppet show that has been going for 50, 60 years. It's dying,
Yeah.
It's a dying art. So that's my passion right now.
Wow, that's wonderful. And these, Barbara, these are for sale?
Yes, if you go on to, I'm with an agency called 100 Prints, and if they go on to 100 Prints, you can look at, you can go onto the website Barbara Parkins Photography, and then my website will come up, which is called C'est ma vie, which is in French, which is It's My Life. C'est ma vie. I was married to a Frenchman, but he's not my life anymore. So you can look at my photography, but if you want to buy prints, you go on to 100 Prints, and it's based here in England, and you can buy any print you want, and they're for sale.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Barbara. Duchess Kate Middleton, wife of Prince William, of course, actually considers Barbara to be a style icon of hers. There's actually many photos on the internet of Kate Middleton and Barbara Parkins side by side in comparisons. Barbara, do you consider yourself a style icon?
No, I don't. I don't. Well, I love clothes, and I love if there's an evening dinner, I'll dress up. Obviously not in the pandemic, but I'm not a schlep person. I don't like wearing. Let's see. I don't want to get into trouble here. I like dressing up more than I like dressing down. I'm not a T-shirt person. Well, I think today people dress down. I mean, and down and comfortable. I don't. I just dress up. I always like to wear lipstick when I go out. When I walk the street, along the streets around in London, and I see some of these women and they don't wear any makeup, I think, God, how does a guy make love to that? I wouldn't even go there if I were a guy. Yeah, I feel like stopping women and saying, "Here, let me take you over to Harvey Nichols, and let's do your whole face, and let's put you in some nice, really pretty clothes." So a guy walks up, "God, you look beautiful face, you know. Let's have some champagne and carry on." But you know, that's just me. You have one life, you know, and I love to dress up, and I love style, and that's just me.
And Barbara, there's actually a photo I saw of you meeting Queen Elizabeth in the 1960s, I believe. Do you remember anything about that meeting, of that amazing day?
I'll tell you what happened. I did a film with Lee Marvin and Roger Moore called Shout at the Devil. And the author of the book was Prince Philip, who's just passed away, and there was an amazing tradition of royalty in his funeral. But that was his favorite author at the time. So the producer and the someone at the palace got together, and they said, "Well, let's have a Royal Command performance," which means that at a cinema in the city, the Queen comes, and there was the Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. And then we all line up after the movie, and we greet them. And as I bowed to her, and I looked up, and I came out of the bow, I looked up at her crown, and I thought, how expensive is that, and how far back in history did that crown go?
Right.
And that was my thought.
Wow,
yeah.
I could definitely see that.
I did meet Prince Philip during Peyton Place, because I've always been a World Wildlife Foundation person involved in the World Wildlife Foundation for endangered wildlife.
Yeah.
And Prince Philip was the honorary president at that time of the World Wildlife Foundation. And they had a luncheon for him at 20th Century Fox. I know that there's a picture of that out there. Andy actually sent it to me. I had said that I was on one side and Barbra Streisand was on the other, but it didn't seem to be that way. But in my head it was. But at one point we were standing together with him, and he would say, "Well, Barbara," and we both go, "Yes, yes," because we wanted his attention. But I am very, very passionate about wildlife and nature and trees and all that we're losing, you know. That's another great, great passion of mine, and how I can get more involved with it. I'm working on that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know a lot of people, even younger people, are starting to take environmentalism more seriously than they have in the past, and that a lot of people are looking to get into more sustainable living.
Good to hear.
Yes. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share?
Since we're into kind of saving the world, there was a funny moment. I had done a film with John Huston, the brilliant director, and there was a sequence where I had to open. What was the name of that film, Andy?
The Criminal Letter.
Thank you. We were in Helsinki. We were in Helsinki. We were doing a scene where I was in a leotard, and I was going to be opening a safe, and then they said, "All right, we're stopping for lunch." And sometimes I don't like to go to lunch because it takes up a lot of energy, and you're talking, and my concentration that day, as many times, I just wanted to be by myself and had my lunch brought to me and be quiet and kind of get into, a calm state again and start thinking about what I'm going to be doing. And so I was in my leotard, and there was the safe, and I kind of lay down, and I was just kind of relaxing, and I started fiddling with my toes, opening the safe, going to the different numbers, turning it around, my toes going to open, and then I closed the safe, and I thought, I'll do it again, open. And then I heard this, oh, goodness, and this huge kind of outrageous, wonderful laugh, saying, "That's it." And I turned around, and it was John Huston, and I said, "What? What?" He said, "That's what we're going to do." I said, "Well, yes, we're going to do this." He said, No. He said, "You're going to open that safe with your toes." I said, "I can't. It has nothing to do with the scene." He says, "I don't care. I love it. You're doing it."
Oh, my God.
And another scene, Shout at the Devil, one of my favorite films. Oh, and something else I have to tell you about before I say that. My most favorite project I've ever done was, what was it?
Ziegfeld, The Man and His Women.
Ziegfeld, The Man and His Women. Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen that one.
You have to. It was a TV movie about the life of Florence Ziegfeld, who did the Ziegfeld Follies, which you have to go and watch the Florence Ziegfeld Follies, which were absolutely glorious. You know, hundreds of women walking upstairs with balloons following them, and some of them like making the shape of a piano. I mean, all in black and white. And I played the role of. They called me and we want you to do a little part in the Ziegfeld. The Man and His Women, and I said, I read the script, and I said, I'm living with a Frenchman in Paris. I speak French. I can dance. I can sing. I've always wanted to dance in something, in a project. There was my dancing. So I did a little piece of film, and I sent it to them. I sang, I danced, and I played Anna Held, the French Victorian songbird in Paris, who was kind of like the star of theater in Paris, and she would sing, and she would flash a mirror in men's eyes, which was very naughty at the time, the turn of the century. And I played this role, and I was able to dance in it, and I was able to sing in it. That is my favorite role to date.
Wow. I have to check that out.
It's my favorite role ever.
Barbara, Andy, I want to thank you both for being here on the hot seat today. I really appreciate it. Such an honor to talk to you, Barbara.
Well, thank you for getting in touch with Andy, who got me in touch with you. Thank you so much. And I've so enjoyed the interview, and I'm glad Andy was able to come on and share some of his thoughts.
Thank you.
It's kind of strange that I have a fan base, but Andy, thank you so much. And I just to tell you, I've had a wonderful career. I've worked with wonderful people, and all the bad things that have been said about the industry, I think is a very small majority. It's a wonderful industry. It's hardworking people, and I'm so proud to have been a part of it. And thank you so much again for having me on your podcast. And I look forward to seeing it, and thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much again, and you both have a wonderful day, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.